I moved to DC to fall in love. I also wanted a fulfilling and successful career, but honestly, at the end of the day, I just wanted to meet the love of my life. And my strategy for finding the love of my life was very similar to my strategy for finding a job. I applied to 1,000,000 jobs, I got a handful of interviews, and I got one job offer. So I thought that it would kind of be like I'd go on 1,000,000 dates, I'd meet a handful of guys that were meh, but then I would meet that like one love of my life. And so in order to start this dating adventure, I joined all those apps, and I matched with Jake. Jake in his profile picture had this like rough around the edges nerdy look to him, but I was like really into it. So we texted a bit and we set a date. I show up to the bar and I sit down, I order myself a drink, and I wait. Like 10 minutes go by, 15 minutes go by, and Jake still isn't there yet, and the bartender is starting to look at me like, girl, you might be getting stood up right now. But I like really don't believe that because I have this intense sense of optimism that this could be the love of my life. So I pull out my cell phone and I text Jake and I'm like, hey, just like wondering where you are, like let me know, okay, thanks, bye. And immediately he responds back with, hey, car trouble, I'll be there in a few. So I continue to wait, and about a half an hour later, Jake rolls into the bar, slumps down on the corner, and says, hey. And I am so ready for it. I start telling jokes. I tell him about the time I met 2 crazy Italians in Hungary. I'm smart. I look great. And I am on point. But the funnier and funnier that I get, the sadder and sadder Jake looks. So I stop this like one-woman show and I turn to him and say, hey, Jake, you look like really sad. Is everything okay? And he doesn't answer right away. There's like this pause, like a calm before the storm. And then, I'm so sorry. And Jake starts howling, like wailing, bawling his eyes out so loud. And he starts telling me that his car broke down, but he's an Uber driver, and so he's really not sure how he's gonna pay rent the next day. And so I really feel for him, you know, like it sucks. But the bartender is looking at me like, girl, what did you just bring into our space? So I put my arm around Jake and I like pat him on the back and I'm like, I am so sorry, that like really, really sucks. You'll figure it out, it'll be okay. And like slowly Jake stops crying and like gets himself together. And in that period of time, I like recognize that Jake is not the love of my life. And I should probably just like cut my losses and go. So I finish my drink and I turn to Jake, who's now dry-eyed, and I say, hey, it was like really nice to meet you and I really appreciate you like coming out tonight even though like shit's crazy, but I'm gonna go. And I like book it out of there. And on my way to the metro, I just like think about how much I want to go home and watch Gilmore Girls on Netflix and have another glass of wine. But I get into the station and it says 35 minutes until the next train. Because it's DC, and of course. And I decide that I like can't wait that long. So I exit the station and I call myself an Uber. And I feel like the universe is telling me, like, yes, you deserve Gilmore Girls and wine, because right away it says your Uber is arriving now, and a car pulls up next to me, and I'm just like so relieved. So I like get in, I buckle myself in, I look up, and Jake is driving the car. Oh, Jake, didn't you just tell me that your car broke down? So like, what is this? Oh yeah, like my mom is gonna let me borrow her car until like I can figure out what to do. And you know, that makes sense. So I think that I have a choice right now. I can either take the metro, or I could stay in the car and let Jake drive me home. And I just really want that like Netflix and wine, so I stay in the car and I let Jake drive me home. And it's like the most awkward Uber drive of my life. And on the way home, I like think maybe finding the love of my life is gonna be a bit harder than I thought. Thank you.